what we started discussing last week. We started to break up some of the covenants. We explained what a covenant was. We started going through the implications and the details of all those good and exciting things. Just very quickly, we need to understand, we need to make the link that our Torah, the first 5 books, is linked to a ketubah. The ketubah is a covenant, right? It was the first one instituted throughout the entire scriptures. A marriage contract between a man and a woman. Okay? So God uses that same picture that He comes back into. And remember, every contract or every covenant is binding, it's intergenerational in many cases. Breaking it has consequences, and a broken covenant requires atonement or restitution. Okay? There has to be mutual benefit for it, there are terms and conditions, and there is an expectation of faithfulness. Alright, just like any marriage, you're not going to go in there with the plan of getting divorced, generally speaking. If you are, stay away from marriage. Many people get into this thing, obviously we know of really bad worldly examples of marrying for money, and then as soon as we get the contract signed, we wait the allotted amount of time and then we're out the door. It's amazing how God, or how the world will try and continually pervert what God has put in place.
Yeah.
Alright, so we have a lot of people that are a lot of damaged people because of marriages that have gone awry, because people have never understood the heart of the thing from the very beginning.
Yeah.
Okay? So we went through the Abrahamic covenant. We mentioned the covenant passed from, well, we spoke about Noah, we spoke about Abraham, we spoke about Isaac and Jacob, and then we went up to Sinai. And remember, with each covenant, there were stipulations, right? But there's also a sign. Remind me of the signs from Noah's covenant. What was the sign? Rainbow, right? Give me the sign for Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. Circumcision. Okay, it's a symbol that you remember what God promised you and that you know your obligations, because that is continual. Okay, then we went up to the covenant at Sinai. Sinai had another sign. What was it? Shabbat. Okay, so the Sabbath, and as I said to you guys last week, Shabbatot, Sabbaths. Every feast has Sabbath. So every time you do it, God reminds them continually. This will be a sign between me and you. It'll be a sign on your forehead. You can't get more plain than, no thanks, it's my day of rest. I am abstaining from everything and I'm sitting back. And the last thing I mentioned, which probably stirred some feathers, is that we don't realize how serious this is, because God, when people are found working on Shabbat, remember there was a guy going out and he was carrying wood. And they didn't know what to do with him. This has never happened before. He's just entered into the covenant. How about what do we do? And God told him to do what? The community had to stone. God considers breaking of Shabbat in the same league as adultery, murder, kidnapping. Just let it resonate a little bit. This is not God being pedantic, just about you resting. He takes it seriously. Remember, it is the same symbol as this nowadays. This tells you I belong to someone else. If I take it off from time to time when I go out, and I put it back on whenever I feel like it, am I taking my marriage vows seriously? No. How do you think that's going to play out for my wife? Is she going to be happy with me? She's you're speaking to her, right? You know, right? There's a heart condition that gets attached to this ring. And it's the same thing as this covenant, this contract. Literally, the power of life, a new life was given to Israel because God honored a covenant with who? Abraham. Israel did nothing, but it was Abraham's promise. He already promised him in Genesis. He said, your children will be held captive for 400 years in the land of not their own, but don't worry, I'm going to go and fetch them. I'm going to go and judge them. And then I will bring them into the promise. And Abraham said, God, well, if you think that's the best plan, cool, I'm with it. I don't have a bus because your plan, your best plan is my best plan. Because He knows you better than you know you, and He knows what's best for you. He knows what's going to get you to the end of it all, and you should still be standing. A lot of the times we struggle with this because we don't think He knows what's best for us. Let's just think about that for a second. The Creator of everything kind of knows what's better for you. So we doubt a lot of stuff. We don't doubt that He can listen to us. We don't doubt that He does listen to us. We doubt that He loves us enough to act. How many times the Israelites grumbled in the wilderness and they're saying, oh, God just brought us out here to die. God just brought me here to die. Are you even with us? How many of you have had that discussion with me? Don't be shy, it happens a lot. Especially in your beginning stages. And then when He comes through, you want to crawl underneath the table, and then you feel like, okay, sorry, my bad, I didn't mean to die to you. I knew you were there, right? I'm sorry, okay, I'll learn. And the next time He puts you through it, you were supposed to switch off your brain a little bit and say, I can't see what your plan is here, but I'm trusting you anyway. And slowly we grow. Slowly our hearts turn. Slowly we move forward. Guys, at the end of the day, God only wants to give you life in eternity. He's not taking you to a place to drop you off and then going, I can't believe you fell for that. I'm going to go sit in the building and see what happens. That's our Satan's job. He's going to get you off that path, put you somewhere else, and then you're going to blame God. How many of you have done that? Right. God's got a plan. His Torah is life. His signs are symbols to keep you safe and to show the world who you belong to. If you start messing with the symbol, you start messing with your declaration. He takes that seriously. When you enter into a covenant, remember this. Remember Genesis 15. Abba says, go get some animals. Abraham already knows. I cut them from tail to snout. I put them on 2 hills. The blood pours down. I keep it away, and the way the practice goes is, are you going to keep this? Yes. Alright, walk through the blood. Because if you don't, I'm going to make you like these animals. How many of you would have thought twice when someone said, okay, let's have a baptism? You're entering into covenant with God. If that was the covenant. You see, today we take it a little bit lightly. We don't understand the fullness of what's going on. It is a serious decision. The Messiah says, count the cost. Some of us, God is really gracious. We never fully understood until we got in the water, and when we came out, we only started learning how serious that was. But so as you learn, as you grow, as you take more things into your heart, let me just reiterate, God takes this stuff seriously because He takes you seriously. He only died to save you from yourself, to give you an opportunity to follow Him. This is one of those stipulations. Okay? So when we hear about, people have a warped idea of what this is, and they go, oh yeah, God struck down a guy because he was carrying wood. What type of loving God is that? Someone who understood the covenant, someone who understood the conditions, someone who understood the stipulations, still walked up to Him and said, no thanks God, I'm going to do things my way today. And even when they captured Him, you don't hear a single utterance of, Lord, I'm sorry, I messed up. Nothing. No teshuvah. Nothing. No repentance in any way, shape or form. It's just not there. So what did He say until the day He died? Your God, no thanks. I want to stay in the camp, I want the manna, I want the water, I want to get into the promised land, but once I'm there, I'm out. Thanks very much, it was cool. You can call yourself Hebrews or whatever you want to do. I'm just going to be, I'm going to be on the inside. And I'm going to stay on my own little piece of land, and I'm not going to follow anything. And that little bit of chametz is going to start to filter to the rest of the people. And then all of a sudden, you're sitting in a land where people don't care about Shabbat as much as what they should. Because you know what, that's your truth and my truth. And I used to marvel back in the day, that ancient historians used to say, you know what, there were some fascinating things about Jerusalem. You know, the temple was one of them, but the second most eye-catching thing about them was one day a week, no one works. Whether you were a foreigner, or just passing through the land, whether you were a slave, it did not matter. And remember, slave does not mean like we have this slave trade thing that we've got in the back of our mind. God says employee, but to the point where He eats what you eat, your family. He sits at your table. Don't, skimp on the Nescafe. So you're having steak tonight, what are they eating? Oh, we give them some bread and water. No. It's not how this works. That's family. Remember, they were completely revolutionized the way people fought in that time. It's the same as women's rights. God was the only one around that actually cared. It was there from the beginning. Okay? Gets this, guys, all set up to a point where they need to be a covenant people to show the world who God is, because they forgot. And within this nation, no one worked. If you came in and you wanted to trade, they said, fat chance, no way. Not going to happen on my watch. If you are doing anything else except spending time focusing on the Creator and resting, start to question yourself. Abba holds us in high regard. This is not my words, it's His. Look up the verses. Do this stuff. What's one day? One day in life. One day a week. We just need to reshuffle some stuff. And we need to better prepare. And we need to learn to say no. That's tough, I know. Okay? Been there. Been put through the door. Been smacked 150 times for doing stupid things when I shouldn't. But such, God is merciful and we grow. But the point is, we need to push so we can grow. Now I promise you guys that we will discuss very quickly where the change happened, because people go, oh, it's the seventh day. Obviously in our calendar, the seventh day is Sunday, right? Huh? Yeah, we'll get to that. Alright? We already, Auntie Natalia's already mentioned last week that there are languages like in Portuguese that it's Sabbath. It's Saturday.
Actually, it's 150, more than 150 languages. The Sabbath day, Saturday is the Sabbath day, 150.
Right, I know Spanish and I think Mexican and Russian. And Russian. So, okay, it's very, very simple. Right? So, what happened? Okay, now we're basically talking about 3 calendars, roughly, that we're changing into, right? We've got something called, there was the Julian calendar, and we have the Gregorian calendar. And then we've got, let's say, I'm going to put lunar, but please understand there are some people that take the lunar calendar a little bit wayward. Right? What happens is, if you don't know what I'm talking about, you don't have to worry about it right now. Okay? We have indications that these 2 calendars, which are ancient calendars, Roman calendars, focused more on solar, sun. Okay? So we were focusing on the rotation of the sun and how many times, the sun circles, and that will give us roughly how many days in a month.
Sun doesn't circle.
Wrong.
I know.
No, you want to look at them.
May I?
Yes. Yeah. We go in, right? As we go, how many days in a month, roughly? We've got 30, 31, okay? More or less. So we go through this time, and everything is calculated according to the sun, right? What's the difference between this one and this one? Okay, so we start to look at 29 and something like 3/4 and so many minutes, etc. per cycle. Alright? I'm not going to go too much into this, I want you guys to do this stuff. Okay? Somewhere along the lines, God said, you know, you will go from Sabbath to Sabbath, seventh day to seventh day. And then you'll go from Rosh Chodesh to Rosh Chodesh, you're going to, and then you'll have those cycles that tie in. Every time you sight new moon, we go and we count, right? But the problem is, these two don't add up. So already we've got months being a problem. And we're saying, okay, but how months really, over 29 days, fine, there might be a little bit of discrepancy, but a week, you got 24 hours in a day, surely that's not much to take. If we go back to Constantine, everybody know who Constantine was? Constantine was a nice Roman emperor. He had a little bit of a problem because mommy woke up from a dream one day. And she went, this Jewish Messiah thing is real. We need to convert. And he goes, right. The Romans have spent a really long time cultivating a superiority complex. We are Romans, you are plebs. And especially if you're Jewish. Yes. Are you going to tell me those people were right? Okay, hang on a second. How are we going to sell this to the rest of the Roman population? Well, first of all, we need to kind of draw them in a little bit. So what he did was he kind of like changed the names of feast dates and he gave them different meanings, right? So we'll go like, okay, you can still worship pagan days, but we're going to give it a Christmas Christian twist. So you know what? You're still worshiping on the same day, guys. Don't get your knickers in a knot. You're still going to have your festival. Just we're just gonna look a little bit for the guys who want to serve a little bit of this Christ, and you know, it's okay. We've got pagan symbols in all of our Christian holidays. Easter, Ishtar. Ishtar was a fertility goddess. December 25th. Christ wasn't born anywhere around there, guys. Just very, very quickly, December 21st is the middle of winter. In winter is our rainy season in Israel. Okay? What happens with the rainy season in Israel? We grow crops. And out in the wilderness where our flocks and that would normally go, it's either flooding or freezing. So if you're a shepherd sitting out in the gate, looking at the stars, you become popsicle. People freeze to death in the wilderness. Go there in March and go sit outside in the wilderness with your little jersey on and then tell me you're having a wonderful time. I promise you, you will not be. It is freezing, and we're talking about March. I'm not talking about December. Okay? It is absolutely cold. So the problem, twofold is, if the sheep were out in the fields at the time of Messiah's birth, all your flocks were out, you wouldn't want to lose your crops. Okay, if it wasn't snowing for some reason that year and you managed to survive, then you would have really fat sheep and really skinny people. So you would starve. Bad move. Secondly, you would probably freeze to death. Okay, so it makes more sense that he would be on a different time. Never mind that December 25th is an actual a different pagan holiday. But do some research. Okay? But anyway, we start looking at our days of the week. Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. Now, if you're going to worship Saturn, which day of the week do you think that was named after? Saturday. Sunday is the worship of who? Oh, Ra. Very nice. So we're back in Egypt all over again. Okay? And we start to have the same cycle of things. You see, in Hebrew, we don't have Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. We have day 1, day 2, day 3, day 4, day 5, day 6, day 7. When you start calculating the months, okay, there are physical, there are signs that go in, like the month of Aviv. The month of Aviv means ripe or spring. Why? Because the body starts to ripen and we know that the season starts to change. Okay? Later on, after Babylon, we have some very dodgy Jewish calendar names like the month of Tammuz. Tammuz was a Babylonian deity. Probably not the best thing to do is mix up a calendar with that. But yet, here it is. Okay? And somewhere along the line, we've taken these calendars and we've overlapped it with this calendars because remember, we were living in a Roman world and we weren't really focusing on God's days of the week. And we changed our cycles. Now I'm going to give you a little bit of information. I want you to go look at this again. The Council of Trent happened in the 1500s. There was a massive Protestant Reformation. The Protestants came up against the Catholics and they said, listen guys, we don't like this pagan worship thing that you've got going on here. We do not want to get involved. You're not following Scripture anymore. You have now departed from the Bible. Now, to give you a little inclination, this council that happened was 25 meetings. The best and brightest of the lot coming together, and we've got advocates going back and forth. And this one lovely man stands up, and he looks at the Protestant council and he says, all right, you guys say we don't follow biblical feasts, right? We don't follow the Bible anymore. Which day do you worship on? Sunday? And then they go, thank you very much. He cites back to when the Catholics changed the Sabbath day from Saturday to Sunday. And he said, you guys aren't following the Bible line. And after all that time, after all that meeting, the Protestants did not argue. They watched the thing and the council shut down. It tells you a few things. Man decided to change God's day to another day. Now I don't know about you, but that's a whole lot of chutzpah. You know chutzpah? It's like beyond cheating. If you think you have the authority to be able to change God's mitzvah, I'm telling you now, you are sitting on the throne and you're telling him to move. We know historically, we know culturally, that it was carried on from Friday night to Saturday night, all the way back, predating Messiah. And surely if he taught so much on Sabbath, he would have mentioned if they got it wrong. But as was his custom, on Shabbat, he was in a synagogue. So now I ask you the question. The same question I had to continually asking myself as the more I grew, the more I asked this. Am I going to follow man or am I going to follow God? We've had discussions with pastors and they say, look, we believe you need a sabbatical principle. Any day of the week, take just take a day off and rest. That's fantastic. One day a week I get to do this. You think my wife's going to be angry with me? A little bit. God never told you to keep a principle, He told you to keep a day. A day that was there from creation. And He links it into covenant. You got any questions about that? Go check up on the Council of Trent. Go do some of your little digging into the origins of, if you want, Christmas and Easter. It's amazing. I had a discussion with a pastor once. He says, you know what? We just celebrate it in a different way. And I said to him, it's amazing how people will use those holidays as an excuse for why we don't have to celebrate the true holidays. Another discussion that came up with another godly man, and he was still learning, he's still growing, and I sat down and I said, you know what? I don't envy your position. He's an elder in a church, been there for many years, very devout guy. And I said to him regarding, we were discussing Christmas, and I said, you know what? He said to me, but Vince, we're not worshipping pagan gods. You know, people want to say Christmas is complete idolatry. It's not. They're worshipping God. They want to look at the birth. And they're not sure exactly on which day he was born, so they'll celebrate it on that day. So I said to him, you know, I agree with you about not so much the day thing, but I agree with you that it's not idolatry in the fullness of, but it's golden calf. And he looked at me and went, huh? You're worshipping God in a pagan way. They were worshipping God at the base of Mount Sinai. Behold, the God who brought you out of the land of Egypt. And I looked at him and I said, did it work out well for them? End of conversation. Sometimes it's a difficult truth to swallow. But ultimately we have to decide who we're going to follow. We're going. Sorry, I can't hear.
Is it not the sin of presumption? There is a person who actually practices Shabbat on the Sunday, presuming to
yeah. Look guys, when it comes to this stuff, I'm asking you nicely, please be gentle. We've got too many Messianic believers or Torah followers or whatever like that and walk in there and they want to beat people now because they feel hurt and lied to and all the rest of it. It wasn't that person that lied to you.
It's their upbringing.
It's their upbringing, it's their culture. If you get taught in seminary, listen, would you want to be a Baptist minister? You teach the Baptist creed. If you don't want to do it, find another creed, find another job, find something else. But the Bible says this is our standard answer for that. In seminary, they do not teach you the Bible. They teach you 11 books of the Bible. How many books are there? So you get 1/6 of the compilation and you're supposed to be able to teach people about God. I have a problem with that. And I'm not knocking it, I wanted to study. I wanted to go to seminary, I wanted more information, and that's what I found. There are many other skills and things like that that we need to come into, but ultimately, your Bible is your baseline. If God is not the authority, then we've lost something. Ultimately, it's your halakha that's going to get their attention. If you compromise on one principle, you compromise on it. And remember, if you are in the public school system, you've got sports going on, you've got fundraisers going on, you've got all this stuff going on, I'm asking you, is it in line with what God said to do? If you're not focusing on Creator and if I'm not resting, what am I doing? Guys, hear my heart. It's my job to stand over here and give you what God said, not what my interpretation is. And Shabbat is one of those difficult things because nowhere in Scripture does it tell you how to keep it. We just have Nehemiah beating people for allowing traders to come in and other people starting to trading. So you want to gather on the day He said, rest on the day of manna. You don't even have to go get your bread today, guys. Sit and relax, sort it out, get it done. I want you to focus on me. I want you to relax. I want you to forget about the world. Ultimately, that's where you are, and that's where I want to keep you. I want to keep you safe, man.
Vincent, Isaiah 58 is not talking about the Sabbath, is it? It's talking about a Yom Kippur Sabbath.
I have to.
Isaiah 58.
Can I check that out after? So that's all right. But there are many aspects of this that you really need to understand the heart. You are a light unto the world. If you compromise on where you are what are you doing to your light? And it's tough out there. I don't want to force my religion. I had this one thing. Good few years back, I was like, no, you know what, it's good to do good on Shabbat. And I allowed a guy who was not a believer to complete a work on my property. And I said, he's not a believer. He doesn't understand Shabbat. I'm saying, but I don't want to force him to keep my Sabbath. This is the only time he has. God made me go back and say, listen, what I was wrong. It says in Scripture, even the slave person, the foreigner staying in your house will not work on Shabbat. I did not want to force you. I wanted to love you right, but I did not keep a standard. I mucked up. I will not allow you to work on my property on that day. These are my bounds of what I'm under authority. We're not talking about life and death situations. We're not talking about running a kid to hospital. We're not talking about, Messiah talks about if an ox falls into a hole or you cannot get up and go do it and get it out. It's a life and death thing. It's an emergency thing. Of course you've got to act in love and you've got to do that. But when you can plan around it, when you're not forced to, when you have a choice, what are you committed to? Are you committed to covenant or are you committed to what?
It is very sad to see that, that is the covenant, that is our sign. And if you think about things like the Inquisition that took place, the Spanish-Portuguese Inquisition, because of people keeping Shabbat, that was the way they were identified, and that's killed because of that. And we can see what happened then is what's going to happen now. If we don't keep the Shabbat for the times that's to come, that is the way that they're going to identify you. And it's like I said, that is the sign. But yes, persecution is going to come because of it. We just had this discussion yesterday with a lady in the case. And it's like, she's got the revelation. I got the revelation of Easter, of all of those things. But I'm going to go look at a church. As long as there's no Christmas there, I can go to the church. And Shabbat I can keep any day, And that is the thing out there. As long as I take one day, you say, no, it doesn't work like that. It's like the time of judges now. Yeah. Every person do what they think is right and go, nice.
Well, that's ultimately the problem. We've forgotten the standard. There's no one to lead. So, amen. You see, that's Satan's distraction. Huh? God is ultimately raising up people. He's ultimately raising up men and women to be able to stand up and not compromise. You will be leaders, you will be judges, you will be shepherds, you will be teachers. These people, that gifting gives you purpose. And the purpose is not about you, it's about reflecting Him. And if He's busy investing Himself in your life, it is your halakha that tells you whether or not you take God seriously or not. And trust me, the minute you say, not going to the shops, not doing anything, Hasatan is going to go, oh really? He doesn't realize he doesn't have milk. Are you going to go without your coffee for the day? Talk to me in the morning you wake up. But it's just an in and an out. It's just a little bit here. It's a little give and take. And that's a slippery slope because we do so. Guys, churches today also will get up to the thing, and New Testament church got together on the first day of the week on Sunday. That is a biblical reference. What they forget to realize, it was a bunch of Jews getting together on the first day of the week. Why? They had their Shabbat. But in Shabbat, what do we study? Torah. Yofi. That's amazing. I get to study Torah. But have you heard? Luke. Dr. Luke wrote this massive scroll about everything. He went out all over the place. He interviewed everybody. He's got all these stories written down. Can we get a copy? Well, I just happen to have a copy. Where are you going to study it? In synagogue? Remember, the stuff they're dealing with now was already going on in that time. Are you a follower? Get out. You are not part of us. You are nothing. You are dead. Literally. They pretend you do not exist. Your business stops. You cannot trade. The community cuts you off as if you had been off. No more you. But you're standing right there. You want to be a Nazarene? You want to follow that Yeshua guy? You're not with us. Today, a Jewish man stands up in the synagogue and he says, I found Mashiach. You have 30 seconds to get out of your shul. No more. You grew up in that shul. Your family is in that shul. That rabbi probably gave you a bar mitzvah in that shul. You stood up in the community and they saw your stages of life growing. What happens if you're the rabbi of the shul? Who's paying your salary? The rabbi, if I don't tell him what the Mashiach is, then what? Count the cost. Me or the world? What are you choosing? We need to make people understand when they say, ah, man, just please let me come. Or won't you please just do this? Or, you know, that's it. If you don't show them seriousness, who's gonna? I know I'm naming this one thing because the next covenant is kind of built on the foundations and precepts of the same thing. Slightly different side. Okay, you all with me? Yes, ma'am. Yes.
So we use that because we actually read in Luke 6 verse 4 that he actually, Messiah himself says, I am the Lord of the Sabbath. So in the Sabbath,
So therefore he owns it. Do yourself a funny. Go and look in the book of Hebrews. Paul, vehemently argues. Well, if it is Paul, it seems like Paul who wrote Hebrews. He vehemently argues to the point that he still says, ultimately, after a rabbi having a discussion with the letter, there still remains a Sabbath day for God's people. New Testament, exclamation mark, dot, dot, dot. And I don't even have to really pull from the Gospels that it says, if whoever is in Yeshua needs to be like him, mimic him, is the word. I copy every movement. So if he was on synagogue on Shabbat studying Torah, what do you think I'm doing? Guys, the only reason I get up and I prepare and our family gets up to prepare this place to get it ready for you to come here was because my rabbi did. It's the only reason I teach. I promise you it is not a complete day of rest for me. I do not get to sit down and sleep late and relax and spend quiet time in prayer. My rabbi got up early, picked up a Torah scroll, and he taught. And if I want to be like him, that's what I'm going to do. The Levites got up and they were offering specifically for Shabbat. There is a holiness about the day. Am I about my Father's business or am I not? The world's business, my Father's business. And you from 12 years old, didn't you know I would be in my Father's house telling me this stuff? Ultimately it comes down to it. What are you mimicking? If I looked at you and I never let you say one little word, and I looked at your walk and I said, all right, is he a believer or not? Is he a follower or not? And I look at your feet, dear God, there better be some evidence. And how much more of a statement than he stops work one day a week. He rests in his Bible one day a week. I don't need to ask any more questions. You see, holiness is ultimately what it comes down to. Set apart. If I'm set apart, it means I belong to Him. And I enjoy the fact that I do. This is not some chore. I told you before, you spend thousands and thousands and thousands and thousands of rands every year to go away and sit and do nothing and say, yeah. He tells you to do that once a week and you want to complain. It's a gift for you. Stop, relax, enjoy. Now I'm good. I don't know if I want to wear it. It's kind of uncomfortable today. It's not really fitting. If you are in any doubt, go home today. Pray about it. And do me a favor, be open for the answer. Don't justify why you shouldn't or why it's okay. Say, Allah, what do you think? I trust God enough to reaffirm. He will reaffirm what His word has already said. It's not a principle, it is a day. It is a sign of an eternal covenant made with God's people. There was a mixed multitude at this place. And Isaiah 56 says, if a foreigner who keeps my covenant, who keeps my Shabbat, and does no work or no rest on that day. And another portion it says, if you stop your feet from doing what you want to do. Right. I'll go into it later. What you want to do on my day. If you do that, I will bring you up into my mountain. I will bring you into my house. He sacrificed His time for me. And so it goes on. Alright. The reason I'm taking time with this is because you do not understand New Covenant unless you understand Sinai Covenant. Alright. Next covenant. What do we have? Levitical covenant. Okay, so we've got a couple of little, what's this? I should just do it quick today. Make it a little bit. Okay. Let's talk about it before I write the report. Covenant with the Levites. Do you have scripture reference? 2 Samuel 7 for the Levites. Is that what you said? The Levitical, no? Davidic covenant. My bad. Alright, so you got the covenant with David. Okay?
Numbers 25.
Numbers 25:4.
It was when Moses was instructed to kill all those who went with the daughters of Moab and other mighty ones. 24,000 were killed.
That's been coming up a lot this week, man.
Yeah. Phineas was the one who speared the two, having
Pinchas. I love it. Pinchas. Yeah, I don't love it. It's twisted, but there's an interesting play there. Alright, so you've got this covenant with Pinchas. This covenant with Pinchas, it carries on to Sadok. It's called the covenant of peace. Okay? And it's mentioned in Isaiah 54 and Ezekiel 37 in other places. And the interesting thing about this covenant is that some guys, and I'm not verifying this, I'm giving you what I've read, okay? They went into the lineages of Sadok and they traced him all the way up. And remember, Sadok was a Kohen. He was a son. Who was Pinchas?
grandson of Aaron.
Grandson of Aaron, son of Eleazar. So Aaron, high priest, Eleazar, high priest, Pinchas, high priest, Sadok. And they traced his lineage all the way down. And what did they find? Messiah. Through the Levitical side of the family, Miriam, Mary's lineage, they found that there was a high priestly lineage. Another interesting thing we've kind of stumbled upon, Zechariah, we see him offering incense in the altar. He's part of that lineage. Now remember, the high priest in Messiah's time was who? We've got two names, Ananias and Caiaphas. How do you have two high priests operating at the same time? No. Roman put the guys into power, but Torah says what? One high priest until the time he dies, and then the next one comes into play. So we already know that there's corruption going on, not only because the guys in charge of it were mainly Sadducees, and they've also got Roman influence, and they like Roman money, so they want to keep everybody happy. So we have a corrupt priesthood at the time of Messiah. Things that were going on are not kosher all the time. One small aspect I was Tanya and I were talking about, because they're doing the Mishkan and things like that downstairs, right? They're talking about the temple and the parallels and things like that. In Herod's temple, there were 4 little courts. You had the ladies' court, you had the court of the Gentiles, then the walls, and you would come in through an entrance, and then they had the court of Israel, which is the court for the ladies, and then you had the court of the men. And then you went up to this little door where the priests and that would operate, and that would be down this area where the sacrifices and that took place. But in the court of the men, and between there and the Gentiles, there was a small little partition, and there's 4 little sub-buildings there. One was for the oil, one was for the wood, one was for the Nazarites, and one was for the lepers. What the heck is a person with leprosy doing in God's temple? So everything is kosher in God's temple? This second temple period is 100% accurate, yes? No. The reason God appears to Zechariah, because he probably would have been, speculation, the actual high priest.
Therefore, John the Baptist would have been.
John the Baptist should have been his son, but because he never went through training, his father died probably, remember he was old and kana, and he goes off and he goes into the wilderness and he acts more like Elijah than he does any sort of Levite we know of. Okay? So we've got some issues. This is the covenant of peace that God makes with a single man, and the lineage picks it up. Shabbat does something and he goes, right, you will carry on this lineage, and then such it runs forth. And we end up with Messiah carrying Messiah to its fullness. Okay? We have a covenant with Aaron. Also, you're looking at the Numbers 18 verse 9. Through you and your sons, well, there will always be, you will be a high priest forever. Okay, you have a covenant of salt. Should I be writing this down, guys? Okay, so we have a covenant of peace. We have Aaronic covenant. We have the covenant of salt, which is the covenant with the Levites. What does the covenant of salt say?
That we have insulted it.
No, that was what Yeshua said.
Okay.
Loyalty, right? It represents. Remember, we throw bread on it, or we throw salt on our bread at Shabbat. But where do we get that from? Bunch of Jews, eh? Not even know. See, there was salt with every offering that was made. Right. So in the offering, your Shabbat table in a Hebraic mind, your table is your altar. You will have lechem, you will have salt, and you will have basar, you will have meat. And everything is unto Him. That's why we make the bracha before we eat, and we thank Him for after we are satisfied. As Torah dictates. Okay? We bless God for the food. And we go, may we be like, or we sanctified by the blood of Yeshua, who is the salt of the earth. He commanded them to be like salt, but that picture was already given to the Levites. And the Levites, salt does what? Give me some uses. Purifies. Preserves. Irritates. Adds flavor. Cleanses. But the actual covenant of salt is a Middle Eastern custom. When a bridegroom and a bride touch their hands for the first time in the Bedouin tribes, even today, they salt their hands first and they hold their hands for the first time. And then they go, let there be a covenant of salt between me. If I'm loyal to you, X, Y, and Z will happen. So kochanim, levaim, if you are going to minister to me, if you're going to teach my people my laws, if you are going to honor, don't worry about the land stuff. The blessings of the land will come to your table regardless. Do what I ask you to do, and Daddy will take care of the rest. It's not just about the land. It's about a calling. That's their inheritance. Okay? Then we go on to David. The Davidic covenant, 2 Samuel 7. Right, establishing the throne of the kingdom. David, you have been honorable, you have done what is right. I will make sure there is a king from your loins on the throne forever. Yes, no? Is that what it says? You want to check me? What happens if they disobey? Okay, let's fast forward a little bit. David, Solomon, Rehoboam. Split of kingdom. God gave the kingdom, part of the kingdom to Jeroboam. And then Jeroboam tried to hold on to that kingdom by giving him golden calves. Probably not the best idea. Worshipping God in a pagan way does not work out. Doesn't matter what your intentions are. And then slowly. But every time there was a king of Judah who came back to Torah, he went, and we go up again. He preceded that. But there was also a prophecy given to Judah before this. What does it say?
It said that the scepter shall not pass from Judah.
Thank you. Genesis 49. The scepter will not pass from. David's anointing, David's covenant, is an offshoot of this. But he would not have got that if there wasn't already a covenant at Sinai. Because you have to be a leader, and he would not have got that if Abraham had not been faithful. But you're starting to see how these things overlap. Okay? So he goes in and he gives him a promises him a kingdom, promises a dynasty, promises inheritance, promises peace, promises blessing, if you obey. If your sons forget me, your throne goes ladas. But the only way God is going to honor Genesis 49, allowing the scepter to never pass, again, there was someone from the household of Judah as well, who just seemed to pop up, who was the true king of Israel. Isn't it funny? Right. The splitting of the kingdom was not the first, it didn't happen the first time there, right? Jeroboam, Rehoboam. That was not the first time the kingdom split. Where did it split before? Between Saul and David. Everybody in Israel and Judah declared him as king. He was sitting in Hebron, the cave of Machpelah, where Abraham was buried. And he stood there and he reigned there for years. 7 years before they came down, Israel came to elect him and they said, be our king as well. It is a foreshadow of what happens later. David, being the beloved, is declared first by Judah. Then he gets lifted up to Jerusalem. In Jerusalem he reigns for 33 years. But then everything is reestablished as one kingdom again. Later, 2 generations later, disobedience, and the kingdom splits again as it was. Judah and everybody else. So it's funny that when Yeshua says, I'm not going to drink of this again until you declare, blessed is he who comes in the name of the Lord. Who is still left in the land today? Mainly the people from Judah. So when you recognize me as your king, the rest of the world will start to come in. But funny how he's using different tribes to try to get them to change this time. Instead, they knew who the king was and now it's kind of reversed. Anyway, it's that same sort of paradigm. Okay? Now we're going to go to the fun one. Oh, please, forgive me. What was the sign for David?
There was the temple and David did continue playing.
Temple. In scripture it says the house.
Yeah.
The house of God. In rabbinic literature, a lot of the times the house of God is referenced to just as the house. So when you read in the New Testament, it says they came in at one accord with one heart in the house. Where else is big enough to house a couple of thousand people? Acts 2 did not happen in an upper room somewhere, guys. It probably happened on temple steps. Southern excavation is probably the place, because where else do you make for 3,000 people? Right? So you come up to that place and he goes, my house will dwell with you, and by the way, you will have sons in a dynasty. It is a dual sign. You will know that God still dwells here because there's a son of David. David means beloved. My beloved king is sitting on the throne and he will rule. I don't need to tell you that that's Messiah. He says, look at my son, whom I love. David, my beloved one. He's just showing you the same picture of what I've published before. I agree. Right. If you guys all got this, can I start wiping? Because this one's going to be a little bit more fun. Okay. Now we have what we like to call the new covenant. Let's wait for the board to dry. The new covenant. Okay? Now, there are a couple of different renderings of the word new. I prefer the term renewed. Okay? The reason I do, because I believe it's biblically based. Okay? Chadash is something you buy a new car. It might be a second-hand car, but to you it's new, it's the same car. Still a Chadash, it's new to you. Okay? That's right. Thank you, sir. Good question. Which covenant has been renewed? Was it David's covenant? No. Was it Aaron's covenant? Was it Noah's covenant? Which one was it? No. Sinai covenant. Has to be Sinai. Because it's the first time he makes a covenant with Israel, and I'll show you in the text now where that plays in. Okay? When was the first time a covenant was renewed? No. At Mount Sinai. I love it. God broke the covenant, the people are forever gone. People broke the covenant at the base of the mountain, and then he gave them another one. Remember the story? Moses said, Moses, go back down to the mountain. But I've just climbed this mountain like 5 times. They've got it. No. Go. And he runs down and he picks up Joshua halfway down and he goes, what's what? And Joshua says, that's the sound of battle. And he goes, no, my boy. That's the sound of revelry. That little word revelry is a little bit of such polite English. What is he saying? Debauchery. There's worship going on, but in the old ways of worship. Let's go. He gets there. And what does he find? Golden calf. What does a golden calf represent to an Egyptian? A slave god named Hathor. You're back in Egypt. Really? Did I not take on the gods of Egypt? Did I not destroy Hathor when I was throwing stones and the livestock were falling dead? Where was Hathor in this whole thing? Was she so powerful that she could hold on to you? Or are you free? No, I'm free. So where is this God? I've already held judgment, and yet the Egyptian mentality holds firm. Remember, the biggest problem we have is not to get you out of Egypt, it's to get Egypt out of you. I've got to renew my mind, I've got to renew my heart before I start to change the way I walk and see things. They go in and they want, we need a physical God. They make it. He does what? Takes a stick and he goes, Hathor dies, grounds up pieces of it into dust, gets water, and then he goes, drink. Now what do you think possessed Moses to do that? What was he saying? Right, it is the test of a jealous husband. In Torah it says, if you suspect and you don't have evidence or witnesses that your wife has been unfaithful, you take her to the Mishkan. And then the priest will ask her, and he'll write down a curse on paper. And he says, have you been unfaithful? No. Takes the curse, puts it in water, he takes the very dust from inside the Mishkan, pours a little bit of the dust in the water, and he says, drink. With the curse inside. Swear before God, who knows and sees all. And it says, if she was found guilty, her womb would distend. Now, we don't know exactly what that means. Some people believe no more children. Some people believe something would detach and then they would die. We don't know. My question is, do you really think you have enough chutzpah to be able to stand before an all-seeing, all-knowing God and still lie? Remember, you don't have any other witnesses. A stoning cannot take place. So you would be put away. Remember Joseph and Miriam? She's pregnant. Who saw? No one. As he was a righteous man, he wanted to put her away quietly. He followed Torah. You can leave now. I'm not going to have this. Until God appeared through, I think it was Gabriel, correct me if I'm wrong, and he goes, no, dude, don't worry about it. This is about God doing something cool. Just hang on. She wasn't unfaithful. But they would drink, and only the people who had enough, who understood enough that they were not engaging in Egyptian worship would drink. But then he would say to them, all right, guys, let's have this discussion. Swords, armed, go. Clean out the camp. Moses says what? I'm going to have to go. No, fast forward. I'm going to have to go see if God will give us another copy. When he came down, he threw the plaques. He threw, not the plaques, the ketubah, the wedding contract, those two stones onto the ground. They broke. Covenant is finished. I take my wedding ring and I throw it back at you. They were committing adultery on their wedding night. You throw it back at them and it's broken. God in all his righteousness would go, it's been real, it's been fun, crack on, do what you need to do. I'm out here. But no, they clean out the camp. They come back up. And Abba goes, okay. Moses says, can we have another one? And again, the Ruach HaKodesh, the Holy Spirit, writes it, says with the finger of God on the stone tablets, and their same stipulations, same contracts, same God, same people. The covenant was renewed. They already agreed to it before. It was broken. It was reestablished. Nothing changed. God did not change. These are my terms and conditions. Will you love me? Will you walk with me? Will you be with me? Yes. Then you didn't. Are you sure? Yes. Okay. So when we get into the term and we go, he's doing something new. Yes, but it's also based on the old. The covenant, even though in many cases it had been broken, was still held on to. Now I want you to go to Jeremiah 31. Let me show you why I believe again it's renewed. Yeah. Jeremiah 31:31. Here the days are coming, says Adonai, when I will make a new covenant with the house of Israel and the house of Judah. Please stop. Where does it say Gentiles there? Okay, think back nicely. If Abraham is the forefather of the faith, the beginning of the Hebrews, okay? Think back nicely. It's through him and his physical seed, right, who people become because of the circumcision aspect of it, that are going to be belonging to God. Which covenant has been made with any of the Gentiles? The nations? Anybody else? Only Noah's. Noah's covenant is the only one we had. He's not renewing a rainbow. That is an unconditional covenant. It was established. He says, I'll never do it again. Nothing you say or do will be changing that. But now now all of a sudden he says again, go back to Exodus 19. Keep your finger there, go to Exodus 19. Verse 3. Moshe went up to God and Adonai called to him from the mountain. Here is what you're saying to the household of Yaakov and the people of Israel. Right. So in the first covenant we have parties. Jacob and Israel. In the renewed covenant we have Israel and were these the only parties at Mount Sinai? No, we know that there was a mixed multitude that left with them. Right. So who then, if there is a mixed multitude there at the base of the mountain that left Egypt, where do they fall in here? In Israel. Why? Remember, God doesn't change. Give me a basis behind. No. Remember, he uses something you already know to step into something and he goes, you understood that, right? Let's move forward. When you look at the man, Yaakov and Israel is the same person. But when Yaakov was doing physical things, it was Yaakov. When he lost his favorite son, Yosef is gone, Yaakov, 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 Yaakov. His heart was broken, his relationship was broken with God. He finds out his son comes back in and he goes, and Israel goes up and he makes an offering. What happened? Father, I thought he was gone. I made a mistake, but you protected him this entire time. I've been angry at you for so long, but you've just been keeping my son and now he's going to save us. Bread method everywhere. Old man could not understand it, but his heart was brought back, and again, he's no longer just fighting with God, but he's actually going, wow. So when the things look at physical seed, so the physical seed of Abraham, Yitzhak, and Yaakov, but there is a household in Israel where there's a mixed multitude that get included for everybody who joins themselves to my covenant. That's what Paul talks about here. You've been grafted in. You're part of the house. And here he goes, and to Israel and Judah. Remember, after the diaspora, it's amazing that this word Jew that we get today from comes from this term. It's not just because they were the lost tribe, but because they also come from the Judean mountains. And it's amazing that the Messiah will come as the what? What of Judah?
Lion of Judah.
There is a physicality about the promise of Abraham's land. A physicality about a tribe. But it is a spiritual aspect for whoever has joined their house. Guys, believers run around all over the place and they jump up and down and say, we're part of the new covenant, we don't need that old weird Jewish thing. Judah. The name kind of tells you who and what it's inclusive of. Okay? He's included. God did not all of a sudden forget about Abraham here. They were only included there, and they will only be included here. And it's amazing that this now overlaps with 2 Samuel. That this overlaps with Genesis 49. That this overlaps with Abraham's covenant and the land contract. And that also overlaps again with Sinai because of the parties that are sitting at this thing. And listen to what he says. It will not be like the covenant I made with their fathers on the day I took them by the hand and brought them out of the land of Egypt. So you know he's talking about Sinai. Because for they, for their part, violated my covenant. It's a very strong word. Even though I, for my part, was a husband to them. Says Adonai, for this is the covenant I will make with the house of Israel after those days, says Adonai. I will put my Torah, oh my goodness, when did we get Torah? What is Torah? What is the sign for Torah? Wedding contract that comes with Shabbat is the fourth one. Are you guys following me? I'm not losing you.
Yeah, it's fine.
Okay? For this is the covenant I'll make with him, says Allah. Well, I will put, for this is my covenant I will make with those house of Israel after those days, says Adonai. Notice he doesn't want to say house of Israel and house of Judah. He all of a sudden goes from separate parties to become something that's more inclusive. Everybody who belongs to me. Right? I will put my Torah within them and write it on their hearts. I will be their God and they will be my people. You stop. I will take the stipulations, the contract, the wedding issues, I will take the sign and I will not write it on stone anymore. Because that didn't change many people. Remember, it was an external thing. Let me help you understand this. I give you the very words of God. What's wrong with that picture? Oh. So, if I have my Bible on a shelf, does that make me righteous?
No.
Fantastic paperweight. Holds down things, collects dust, but I need to move it every now and then. So, if it's external, how is that changing the internal? You never took my heart seriously.
Yeah, there you go.
You were sitting at the mountain. You saw how I fought to get you, how I took on everybody, how I stood alone, and I took on the gods of Egypt. I took you on. I showed you myself. You heard my voice. People cannot say that the Jewish people were wrong because they're following a guy called Moses. He was sitting on a mountain somewhere, and we don't know what mushrooms he had before he went and he heard the voice of God. Sadly, I've heard this argument. The entire nation heard the voice of God. And then they went, well, Moshe, do that thing you do where you stand in front of it and you'll come tell us, okay?
Yeah, it's too loud.
Then,
There's something very real about that stone is
we're going to get there. It's all. Okay? Are you guys getting me? Are you seeing the same language engrafted here?
Yes.
Okay? I will be their God and they will be my people. That is the same stipulation that he gave Abraham, the same promise that he gave Abraham. At the end of it all, they will be my people. Those, your seed will belong to me. He's citing Abraham's covenant here. No longer will any of them teach their fellow community member or his brother to know Adonai, for all will know me. Now, conundrum. If I pick up a stone and I throw it as hard as I can in any direction, I'm probably going to hit someone who doesn't know our God. So, has this covenant come into fullness yet? No. Okay? But hold on to that thought, I'm going to throw a spanner in it. Okay? To know him is to know him intimately, to experience him. Okay? But from the least of them to the greatest, because I will forgive their wickedness and remember their sins no more. Hang on a second. Does God remember your sins? No. Why? But I thought you said this stuff wasn't coming to fullness yet. I want you to go to Ezekiel. Ezekiel 36 verse 24. Have you noticed that we haven't gone to the New Testament yet? Yes, because there's no real New Testament scriptures about the New Covenant. Just saying. Ezekiel 36, 26, right? 24, I'm going to read from. I'm going to read from 24. No, I'm going to read from 22. Okay, therefore tell the house of Israel that Adonai Elohim says this, I am not going to do this for your sake, house of Israel. So what did you do to deserve this new covenant? Nothing. So who is he remembering? But for the sake of my holy name.
Ezekiel 36.
36. Yeah, 22, yeah.
I don't find the same 56.
I remember mine might be a verse up. What do you have?
All right.
36, 22.
Yeah, therefore shepherds will do not lie. As I live, my sheep will become fat, my sheep will become
Ezekiel.
Ezekiel. 36, 36.
36.
Yeah.
36.
Yeah. You'll sort out your Bible translation later. That's all. Therefore tell the house of Israel that Adonai says this, I will not go on doing this for your sake, house of Israel, but for the sake of my holy name, which you have been profaning among the nations where you went. You were told to be a light, you were told to be a holy, you were told to stand out for me, and what did you do? You assimilated. Egyptian mindset, Babylonian mindset. You were called to be a lamp that was supposed to be lifted up. If you make compromise, you are no longer, you are compromising your light. I will set apart my great name to be regarded as holy, since it has been profaned in the nations. You profaned it among them. The nations will know that I am Adonai. Oh, here we go. The Gentiles are getting something. Says Adonai Elohim, when before their eyes I set apart through you to be regarded as holy. I called you for this purpose and you missed it. So now I'm going to do something cool. For I will take you from among the nations, gather you from all countries, and return you to your own soil. Why? Because Abraham. Then I will sprinkle clean water on you, and you will be clean. Where did John the Baptist get the idea that sprinkling or mikvahing, dunking people in water, would be a good idea? We understood that God was worried about cleanliness at Sinai. Wash yourself, wash your clothes, He's coming. And then they lean this thing and then they go, how are we going to get this new covenant? We've messed the old one up. But I promised He would sprinkle us clean. So, you find a whole bunch of Jews sitting outside, jumping into Jordan rivers and such things. Because they want to start to bring this covenant in. That's what they were going there for. Notice again, what else cleans? I'm talking about a plant here. The psalmist says, sprinkle me with your hyssop and I will be cleansed. It was the same plant, they stuck a sponge to it and tried to give Yeshua something to drink of. New covenant talk. I will cleanse you from all your uncleanliness and from all your idols. I will give you a new heart and put a new ruach, spirit, inside you. I will take out the stony heart of your flesh and give you a stony heart out of your flesh and give you a heart of flesh. I will put my spirit inside you and cause you to live by my laws, respect my rulings, and obey them. I will cause you, I will help you through the power of the Holy Spirit to follow Torah. Why? Because being external doesn't change people. It's only when conviction comes where people start to have a wake-up call. More importantly, conviction shouldn't be your only God. If being beaten because you're not doing something is what you respond to, above all. But my question to you is, where is your love for your Father? Where is your heart condition? And you shall love the Lord your God with all your heart. Abraham loved God and was considered righteous because of his faith, but he was loved by God because he obeyed and taught his household God's Torah. Why? Because it's part of my contract. It's part of how I reflect Him. I am reflecting Him. And the heart of stone is a picture of that ketubah. that stone contract that never changed your heart. I'm going to have to pull out your hard-heartedness and give you something soft and squishy. And then the same deity, the same entity, the Holy Spirit who wrote the first ones on stone will write it on your heart. When did God give us His Ruach? Shabbat at Acts 2. So the sign is the Ruach HaKodesh, the Holy Spirit. In parallels, isn't this interesting? Acts 2. Acts 2, who was there?
Mixed multitude.
No. There was not really a mixed multitude, but people from every nation. Remember, it was Pentecost, Shabbat. They were in one place, focusing on one accord. What are you doing on Shabbat if you're a Jew? You go to Daddy's house, as was prescribed. It is one of the pilgrimage feasts. So the first time the outpouring happens and 3,000 people are saved, just like we lost 3,000 people at Sinai, God says, I remember them and now I'm going to restore 3,000 to my nation. And then He brings them in a whole bunch of people. Mainly Jews. The Gentiles are not being thought of yet. Part 2. Peter gets a vision with a whole bunch of unclean animals and God says, get up and eat. And he goes, no way. No, come on, God, eat. Go eat. I have never put anything unclean in my mouth. Now, if Messiah taught that all things were now clean, surely His disciples would have eaten unclean things. Except He doesn't say that. He says, no way. And then afterwards, He's losing his marbles, right? Because He sits down and He says, He was puzzling over the vision. How can God contradict Himself? This is so not Him. And then fast forward, people stop there and they go, now you can eat whatever you want. That's not what the point of the vision was. Scripturally kind of is self-explanatory. Fast forward to a God-fearing Roman centurion man sitting in Caesarea Maritima, praying towards Jerusalem. An angel appears to him and says, God has seen your acts of charity. He has heard your prayers and He's looking at your kid. But I'm a Roman. Send a delegation to go get a guy called Peter. Tell him to come, it's okay. This is after the crucifixion. How many of you would be very happy to go with a Roman guy? A Roman centurion wants to have a word.
Peter doesn't live here.
He would definitely not go there. But because of the vision, he says, God said to him, what? When he goes, eventually he says, go with the guy, it's okay. I've sent him. He gets up and he goes. And he pulls in over there and he says to Cornelius, what? You know, me as a Jew would never set foot in a Gentile's house. You guys are unclean to the max. How am I supposed to eat with you and talk to you, man? I don't know what's going to come out of your mouth. Guys, Roman worship is pretty dodgy. I don't know if you noticed. Opium was okay and many other plants optional things were happening. Good-fearing Jewish boy walks in, hey, how's it going? Oh, okay, I'll come back later, you're so busy. Not even close. Never mind the fact that they were killed. He gets up and he goes to see this God-fearing man who God singles out, and he says, and as he starts explaining him and telling him about Mashiach, he sees the same Ruach descend down on a Gentile. And then this. But Abba, we've been told they're unclean. How? And then he says, I now understand that we need to not call unclean what God is called clean. You want to talk about the first time a mikvah happened on the Ruach HaKodesh? That happened 8 chapters later. on a Roman centurion. That's the sign. So yes, as we have said, He will remember your sins no more. But not everybody knows Him yet. God is busy. He's establishing. And the more the Ruach comes in, the more you want to obey Him, the more you want to love Him, the more you want to come in line with what He said. And the more you start to go, well, if God said it, I'd better do it because I don't understand anything else. Well, the number one thing I have when Jews ask me, why do you keep Pesach? Why do you put tzitzit? Why you don't have to? I can go into scriptures and I can argue with him about scriptures and I say, yes, but I want to. That doesn't make sense to them. He loves them that much that He keeps tzitzit and He keeps kosher and He keeps this and He keeps that. I don't understand. I really don't. My love for my Father echoes in my obedience to Him. I want to bring a smile to Daddy's face. I want him to be happy with me. I want to go there when I see him and I will say, Dad, you know what, I'm not perfect, but when I was done, they knew who I stood for. Remember that passage? Keep on mentioning about, it was Jacob, blessing Joseph's son. May these boys remember all that I have stood for. Pray, if He doesn't take us before, that I will be able to utter a blessing on my son and my daughter and their kids, that they will understand everything that I stood for. And that will be all of Him. That I would be bold enough to be able to say that, knowing that I fulfilled it. But that same Torah, which includes Shabbat, will change my heart to be able to walk with Him in the fullness of what He called me to be. And when people go, we're part of the new covenant, we don't have to do that other stuff. You just don't understand. Give me one more minute, guys. I want you to go to Galatians. Yeah, I know. Throwing a random mention right here. The one place that most Messianics are scared to go is Galatians and confusing. Go to Galatians 3 for me. Galatians 3:17. Galatians 3:17. Now I'm not going to use my Bible. I want you to tell me what God says. And let's start with a few different variations. Regan's got King James, so we'll start there. Galatians 3:17. Alright, just follow along. You might have some different translations here, but I want you to see that they all say the same thing.
And this I say, that the law, which was 430 years later, cannot, and now the covenant that was confirmed before by God on the cross, that it should make the promise of no effect.
Right. Did you catch that? So even though Torah came later, it did not nullify any other covenant before then. No new covenant can nullify the previous ones. Because if that's true, rainbows mean nothing to me now.
Yeah.
Abraham's promise is gone. New covenant comes in, renewed covenant, David doesn't need someone on the throne anymore. Let's try a different translation. This is what scriptures?
Now this I say, Torah that came 430 years later does not annul a covenant previously confirmed by a word in Messiah, so as to do away with the promise.
Does anybody have anything different to that? It does. Sorry, Auntie, did you say yo?
It says yes, but I would say the legal part of the Torah, which came to be 450 years later, does not nullify oaths sworn by God, so as to abolish the promise.
You cannot get rid of any other covenant by bringing in a new covenant. Each one was made to individuals and God honors them eternally. Abraham was faithful. God has promised Abraham that He will not let His kings go until He is done with them. Hence, we see in Revelations, everything happens in Jerusalem, Israel. Armageddon. Armageddon happens in the land of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. Why? Shut up and shine already. I'm not done with you. Remember, you are called the people of the book. Are you going to walk it out? He started a nation for a purpose. A nation lost track. When you go to Israel today, you will not find all of Israel in Israel. Catch my connotation. You will find pagans, you will find atheists, you will find worldly people everywhere. And yet, there will be groups of people that will not bend the knee to any other foreign god. And they will fight tooth and nail. And I've seen it with evangelists. You tell them, you don't have to keep that Torah anymore. Now listen to me. We do a very bad disservice when we walk up to them and we paganize their Messiah. Because we do not understand the fullness of the scriptures. And we go up to them. We had an interesting discussion with a guy once, and he came up to us and he said, so, God said, you said your Messiah says he did not come to abolish to fulfill? And I said, yeah. And he was using our language to try and trip us up. He said, I don't think he expected us to agree with him. So you're saying Torah is eternal then? Yeah. Hang on a second, you're saying Torah is eternal? Yeah, so did Messiah. And he stood back at me. So you keep the laws? Messiah did. God told us to. We do it. I've heard about people like you, but I've never met one. Brain matter all over Kotel. He came there to trap us up because he had been terrorized many a time by loving believers. But unfortunately, our viewpoint